he's
Standing
good.
by. You know it.
Here we go.
Hey, everybody, you're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz,
I'm Steve Morey.
I'm Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
and we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in, or as I said, possibly stream it. I think I'm getting a second win, fellas.
Oh,
Oh no.
I hope so, because baby's tired.
maybe
I'm
it's just gas.
Well, I did have my weird-ass IHOP experience tonight.
That's facts.
That was
By the
weird.
way, I don't know. I think I've shared this. Nothing gives me imposter syndrome more than being on a podcast that starts off with, "We're your heavy, hairy homos," and I'm like, I'm only one of the three things. This is some bullshit.
But you are by proxy, baby.
That's true. I'm
yeah.
a bear at heart.
I'm and Steve, we're not. I mean, I'm hairy here. This is where I'm
Yeah.
hairy.
I've got a hairy belly. Does that count?
It's not that. It's not that hairy.
It's got some furs on it.
All my hair is just here.
I have a
It's
little
just-
bit. Yeah. So
Just
But,
there and
no.
nowhere else, Caleb?
Not really.
yeah. No, that was the thing. Like, you know what? It's just happenstance that this is here. But when we had this lineup, hairy, 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 so we could legit say that.
Yeah.
We can
No,
make
I'm
it the slightly hairy, heavy homos.
Yeah. No, we're just keeping it, and
Oh no, it still works. I'm still gonna write. I'm still gonna
No,
like.
no.
I mean, I could just. That's what was great about the podcast. I could just lie. Like
Yeah.
a liar.
Yeah,
just be like,
that
no, I'm
never-
like a
That
solid two.
never happens in our society these days.
Just never. No one has ever.
Everyone is so
Yeah.
truthful.
Yeah.
I mean, this is different than most gay culture. You can see all three of our faces instead of just torso shots.
It's amazing how much personality some torsos have.
I have
Oh.
missed you guys this week. It is
Oh.
good to see you.
That's nice to hear. I'm so
It has
glad you're
been-
sad.
It has been just like
I'm so glad you were sad. It makes me feel better.
it has been has
Oh,
been a
boy.
very busy week, long week. I mean, I think this week dragged on. I don't know. I get the feeling it's with you guys too. Same kind of feeling of
This,
just like
this has been one of the busiest work weeks I've ever had. And in the middle of it today, I had to schlep out to the Morristown office, which on a normal day is like an hour and 10 away from me. It took me almost 2 hours to get there today.
ugh.
Oh, and it was like, Zanowitz and his Moses traffic. It's like it's like something. It's like traffic, no sign of accident, no sign of road work, and then all of a sudden it opens up.
Disappears.
Yeah, like Moses.
It pisses me off to no end when it's like that, and you get up somewhere and there's just a state trooper on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, you've like caused 15 wrecks back there by just being here.
He's not even trying to catch anybody. He was just sort of like, I know I left my lighter somewhere around here. It must have just dropped out of my
Probably
pants. I don't
ran
know.
out of gas because I live in a Republican state and it has no money, but it wants to bitch about everything.
Yeah.
So,
True. Hmm.
Well, I need to get off mic for that second because I just let out the burp of all burps.
the mother of all burps.
Oh.
If it
Well,
was
it's a good thing that
if it was-
Riverside actually records all the audio separately, so I can keep that in.
all right. Well, you just go to the part where it goes into the red, and then you'll hear.
It's just-
just spikes. The gain just goes bam.
Yeah. When
Oh.
I was editing the Thundercast, my co-host Rob Stager has this quirk where he would say "endum," and editing it became easy because I knew exactly what an endum looked like in Audacity. So
That's pretty cool.
Man, I have not thought about Audacity in forever. That's why I used to edit Southern Fried Geekery on. And yeah, you will learn to see what different words are and pauses and stuff are. It's where you don't even have to listen. You can just go through and just clip out stuff, just knowing what it is.
Steve, you just had a second one there. So
it's a
second endum.
No, a belch, a burp.
Oh, a burp.
Yeah.
Oh, well, now I just have to figure out. I have to highlight the burps in your audio feed.
Christ. Sorry, fellas.
He's gonna make it his ringtone. It's just gonna be just.
I'm gonna miss the mic button at some point tonight.
Will it be the first time? I mean, will it really?
Oh no.
No.
And there was one time that wasn't audible, but my face told the story of the fart. And John Westhoff always used to ride me because, when we, in the earlier days when we were audio only, very often it coincided when we recorded with when I was actually sitting down to dinner.
Yeah.
So there were many sandwiches and plates of spaghetti that were eaten during some of the episodes.
Oh,
don't do that.
Just doing this chomp.
Yeah.
Slurp here, chomp there. Yep.
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, we're stretched for time.
Multitasking.
There's not enough hours in my day right now.
Also,
your day's on the go.
What's better than sitting down with a group of friends, having a conversation, maybe a drink, sharing a meal? Like that's it's dinner time, but the podcast version.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Getting blown's pretty good.
That's a great thing. Honestly, would 10 for 10 would recommend. I mean, like the worst blowjob I've ever had was better than no blowjob at all. Some big clips like
that is a very awesome. That's a T-shirt.
Like my boss is going to listen to this episode someday, and I'm gonna have to explain some things. It's just kind of like, hey, you do a podcast? Yes, but you can't listen unless we get real cool with a few things real fast.
Well, everything is. I don't even bother, monitoring. I just put everything as explicit. Yeah, because at some point we said something filthy,
dirty.
We said the F word. We said the S word. We said the J word. Whatever that is.
Speaking of things that make us say the F word, news.
News. Well, you can see some of it in what we're saying underneath our names here, but we're in unprecedented times, wishing that we were in precedented times.
I've never dreamed for precedented times more.
Yeah. But not to go down that path, but one thing, and I guess maybe we'll throw this to Steve because he's good at encapsulating news. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Red Hood #1 cancellation?
Well,
there
was what happened was there is and I'm not even going to go into it because so someone was very publicly murdered, and this person was popular with some people and unpopular with other people. And one of the people that he was very unpopular with was the author Gretchen Felker Martin, for some very, very understandable and very supportable reasons. She was less than sad about the situation. And she posted, or actually, I guess shared a post that said pretty much that. Wasn't glorifying any violence necessarily, was just not vague and not hidden of her feelings. And as a trans woman, it's very understandable that she would probably be ambivalent or less than broken up about the situation. unfortunately, given the environment that we're in and the government that we have right now, a lot of large media companies, which pretty much are all of them at this point, and potentially getting even larger, depending on how possible these rumors of Paramount's parent company looking to purchase Warner Brothers Studios and Warner Brothers Media. The DC Comics decided very, very quickly that they could not continue with her employment, but on top of that, immediately canceled Red Hood, which was already shipping to stores.
It was out that day.
It had come out that day, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, stores were told immediately that they could return any copies that were unsold, and all future orders were canceled. So any solicits, everything was just wiped. And I think pretty quickly it became, one of those very collectible kind of items, trying to find a copy. I know, Bill, you were looking for copies.
Yeah. My situation was it was in my DCBS box on Wednesday, and then it was not. And since Lunar effectively is effectively DC from a distribution standpoint, it effectively became a recalled comic.
Yeah.
So I was not getting my copy. I hope somebody that I know is coming through for me. It looks like they are that they'll have that copy in hand on Saturday and will be able to move it. It's, it's hovering around like $45-$50 on eBay, but just as somebody that, collects all current DC, it was frustrating for me. And honestly, like, I don't think DC necessarily made the wrong decision. Taking the politics out of it, if I was somebody who, had, and I actually am, somebody that that lost somebody in their family to gun violence, taking the political aspect of it out, I understand from a corporate standpoint. I hate, this was a very corporate day for me. So I was very, very corporate today. And, just like Colin Kaepernick, Felker Martin is not, is not necessarily a vanguard by which we should measure stuff. If I was a member of the bisexual community, I would be saying, yeah, fuck you, bitch, too. I mean, because she said some really, really awful things about bisexual. So, it's not, I'm not viewing that through that lens, but it's also just so sad because it has such a ripple effect. That's an artist that's not going to be paid for at least 3 issues. That's a letterer that's not going to be paid for 3 issues. That's an editor that has a book removed. And, given the sales figures, that might mean their job or not, with certain thresholds. So it's very sad that that situation exists. Where I will slam DC for, though, is they took it off their I'm almost ready to say streaming, but off DC Unlimited, and you cannot buy the book digitally either after a point. And you see that, but you also see them still distributing, through digital means, books by Gerard Jones and by Justiniano, who are jailed child molesters, and I don't think this exercise comes near to something like that.
No.
So it's,
and I mean, this isn't the first time that it's happened. It's that, usually we get a couple issues in and then something comes out. Several years ago,
Border Town.
Oh yeah, Border Town came to mind immediately. What had happened there. So, this isn't something that we haven't seen before.
No.
And I think as for Gretchen Felker Martin, she's not a comic book writer generally. She is an author. Her book Cuckoo, which came out, I believe, last year, has actually been pretty well, lauded for its style and whatnot. So I know she has other means of expressing herself and making money. But I think Bill, what you said about the artist, the letterer, the colorist, the editor, I mean, these are all people that are also affected by this. But also it does have, again, the same kind of knock-on effect to other writers and artists. Again, we've seen it before at Marvel, where particular artists might put in their own personal opinions about certain things. Usually they are unforgivable, like very anti-Semitic messages that we had in X-Men Gold. We had, situations where writers, were courting controversy outside of their scope and, said some pretty horrible things as well that, I think generally most people would say, that, no, we're not going to support that. This was kind of like, I think it was sudden, but again, not unexpected given the current environment, but also given the history of what happens when a writer or an artist says or does something that will affect, the publisher. You don't want to have, in this particular industry, especially where margins are pretty tight, a lot of times sales are usually pretty tight. You don't want to expose the direct market. You don't want to expose comic stores to protest actions or, angry customers that are, certain types of customers are, and even people who don't buy stuff, but will say that their customers will come
that's
in
what I was going to say. I
be
mean, the
awful.
group of people that this would have angered aren't exactly lining up to buy. I mean, they're the same ones that have been lambasting DC and Marvel and everything else for being woke. I mean,
For being woke, yeah.
Yeah, the entire reason I don't have an LCS anymore is because the owner turned into an alt-right sociopath. And even in the past couple of months, dude put a sign on his door that said, "Don't ask us about Marvel." He doesn't carry it anymore because it went too quote unquote woke. So I mean, folks aren't buying that's the thing that gets me is
That's a very wise business decision.
it's gone well.
Yeah.
I don't know that he'll be in
100%.
business much longer, but
Yeah. Wow.
actually, I never mind. This is recorded. I'll be quiet. Supposedly a shop going to open up near him. So anyway, but the argument that it's going to hurt sales and stuff in this way, I think it does have some merit, but only to a certain degree. Now, if you want to make the stance that, hey, if you want to make the stance that say, knee-jerk reactions or the celebration of X is not going to be tolerated in any way, shape, or form, that is understandable, but that needs to be applicable to everybody. I mean, we've lived through years of quote unquote cancel culture, be it whether somebody was accused of sexual assault or said some asinine, absurd things. From a corporate standpoint, from a private business standpoint, okay, sure, right? I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but these things don't happen in a vacuum, right? It's coming on the back of these are large media conglomerates and that there are mergers that they're involved in. There are people who have said, there have been other people in comics who are, less known or whatever, who have came out and said, hey, so-and-so was actually a great person, a good person. And I'm like, the guy who said that people like me should be drug out in the street and stoned to death is a good person? That's a great person? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Right. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And this also is happening in
Christian.
Yeah. Well, so was
show me one
Hitler.
Show me one tenet of Christ's teachings that guy ever extolled.
Yeah.
You can't.
I don't know that he's ever actually read the Beatitudes. Anyway, but this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? It's also on the back of all of these, Jimmy Kimmel today and yesterday, getting not fired by a private company because they made this decision, but because the White House and the FCC got involved and threatened to start yanking, licenses. That's a violation of the First Amendment, right? And that's what we're seeing wholesale. So, and I don't think that what happened with DC and the Red Hood, I'm not making the argument that it was the same thing. There's been no facts about that. And I've gotten to the point, maybe it's just because my brain is rewired, because of my job and stuff like that. I really don't care about speculation. I care about facts. I haven't seen the facts that say that this is the same thing as what happened with Jimmy Kimmel or anything else, but it certainly is following in that mold to where anybody who has deigned to say anything other than, be sufficiently, verklempt is facing some type of backlash. And what gets me, and it's the absurdity and the straight up hypocrisy, which is not even, is it really hypocrisy when it's intentional? But when cancel culture was just this economic, financial, capitalist blowback that individuals said, I will not put my money towards supporting that person anymore. I will boycott that person. I will send letters and send emails and stuff. And we'll, maybe even get people to go thrash them online or whatever, that it's individuals and private citizens doing that. That was the most abhorrent thing on the planet. But somehow now that it's the government being involved, it's just hunky dory, bro. Like that, one of those things is the First Amendment. The other is not. The thing that you were saying was bad is actually just a public reaction and the reaction of private citizens using the First Amendment. What you are now lauding and celebrating is the erosion of the First Amendment to the Constitution. It's that little blip that they forgot to put in the Constitution and came back literally 2 days later and said, hey, we should probably put in safeguards to stop the government from being criminals, which is what your amendments are. It's meant to stop the government from being a criminal organization, right? That's why, and it was the first one. They thought it was the most important. They could have put other things in front of it. It didn't. That's what we're now eroding in the immediate backdrop of somebody who proclaimed himself, I do not think that he was, but proclaimed himself to be a First Amendment purist.
Yeah.
So that's the legacy.
I think this is something that we could talk about for 90 minutes, but I think we probably should move on. We've covered enough of this. And if you want more of this, just turn on any news channel.
Facts. Yeah. This
ain't going away. So
yeah, not for a while.
In happier news, and this was going to be my woof, but I changed my mind. I don't know if you all saw, but one of my favorite stories is coming back. It was announced that Top Cow / Image is linking back up with the amazing and great and legendary Silvestri to bring back the darkness. Now,
wait a sec. But Top Cow's always been with Image.
Yeah.
Okay, you almost made it sound like Silvestri left.
No. He just hasn't actually hasn't done a lot in like a long time.
Yeah,
but and they haven't. They haven't written or published Darkness in. Wow, I don't even know when.
20 years?
Yeah, close. Yeah, I don't know when the last one.
Maybe about 10 years when they had that final issue, and there was like different perspectives of where people thought it would go.
Maybe, it's been a long.
I want to say like 10 years. Yeah, maybe about 10 years.
So he's coming back. He's going to be writing it, and they're going to have. I forget who's doing the art on the first issue, but the artist who's doing the first issue is only doing one issue, and then handing it off to an artist named Richard Gay, which I remember because his last name's Gay, because that's how my mind works. So because I made a joke about nothing bad happens when you hand it off to a gay. So that's happening. Super excited about it. Do I think that it will? I hope it lasts forever. Do I think it will? No. Do I think it's going to recapture the magic that had at the moment? No, absolutely not. Will it walk out the door with some of my money? Absolutely. I'm excited. I love the darkness, right? I love Witchblade. I love all of that. It's just, I've got little figures up there with all the characters. It's an amazing series. So I'm like, my little nostalgic heart just, grew three sizes that day.
It's also interesting because I think of the initial Image offerings, Cyberforce was the least interesting of that group, and he eventually came up with, like you said, two properties that were really nuanced. Even if they were like, one definitely was in that bad girl art area, but they had lives, Witchblade had a TV series. So,
one season. I've got it on DVD.
Yeah. Actually, I think, was it one or was it two? It might have been. Yeah, I think it was just one. But or maybe it was two. We'll look it up. Somebody, please yell at us in the comments if that's if it's wrong. But the Darkness also spawned a couple video games as well. Yeah. And that was, it was at a time where Turok was getting video game adaptations that are considered some of the best games, of that era.
And
So
both of those properties had lots of intercompany crossovers.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Which it was fine, right?
One that is great if you ever seek it out is Battle of the Planets Witchblade. That is great. You think like,
Oh.
what do they have? And they made it work beautifully.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
For me, as far as that era goes with the artists and stuff, it like he was the best of that group. For my taste, like as far as just the visual look
of the
image
image
guys.
numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that for me.
No, you don't. I mean, no. For me, he's the best.
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I'm just saying I wouldn't say that for me.
Who would you
For
go
me,
with?
and we know, Bill, that you're a big
I
Rob
would
Liefeld
say
fan, so
McFarlane.
I
I
can
would
see
say,
that.
I would say McFarlane. And there are points I wish he had concentrated more on his art than, but then again, his business, right back here,
Yeah.
his business stuff, changed a lot of things, but,
right.
uh, and he wasn't a very good writer. There are issues of Spawn you could read in 2 minutes, but the ideas were big, and the
visuals were bold.
in terms of the big ideas, and I don't mean to disparage another artist in that, but Todd was who Rob wanted to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely.
And that they were both generating ideas, upon ideas, and Todd decided to go, make it very small, and the things outside of the Spawn verse are few. What, like haunts? There's very few that he did.
Yeah,
One went, as widescreen as you could, and then one just, stayed in one lane. I thought that was a really interesting development with them.
Yeah.
When going back and looking at that era, I'm always interested in what Larson was doing now, like going back and looking at it now to see what how he kind of just stayed, because he adapted some of the visuals. Like he wasn't completely staying true to like the Marble House style that he had before, but with Savage Dragon, he kind of blended both worlds, and it had both this new, like this new age look, but a classic feel to it. That none of the rest of them had. The rest of them, well, I say like Wilfredo. Not Wilfredo.
Will Spertasio.
Yes, Will's. His stuff never did impress me much at all. But just it didn't disappoint, but it just wasn't. It didn't have the gravitas even that Liefeld had. But
as a creator, though, I have to go with Valentino.
Yeah.
Just because he took the most risks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Risks. Can I say that?
Risks.
I mean, in the 90s, and here we have a person of color with AIDS leading a book, and that was an incredibly brave move. And some of his more memoir like works, like A Touch of Silver, they're really good works, really good stuff.
Yeah. Also, I'd say also in relatively good news for those people who have been waiting with bated breath for a certain summer blockbuster film to be available on streaming. It is Superman's debut on HBO Max tomorrow. And in response to that, the HBO Max streaming platform has done some very interesting things already to prepare for it. They have a whole section about, get ready for, Superman by watching all these other related films and series over the past, so many years. But starting tomorrow, they're going to be doing an interesting overlay where they show Daily Planet, where they show like the different characters. You can do all sorts of interesting things with it. Just a little sort of fan service, for people who have the app, whether they're going online or on, some other set-top box or whatnot. But, I mean, if you're like me, you've seen it multiple times in the cinema, and I'm sure, I'll be watching it again at home, streaming it multiple times until I can get the the Steelbook 4K, possibly 3D release.
Yeah, I am really confused. They haven't announced the 3D, but there was a post that made it sound like it's going to be a Warner archive, which how the majority of Warner's 3Ds have come out over the last 3-4 years,
right,
as made on demand. I'm still confused because I would get it because I don't have a 4K player.
Mm-hmm.
Ours died.
Oh,
We got a rebate. It was under warranty, so like that was okay. But they don't make the model anymore, so we just get a cash value. And I don't want to pull something while Rob's away for a few months. So what I was hoping is because many times you see 4K and Blu-ray in a package,
right,
and you're not really seeing that. You're seeing 4K and digital copy, at least with what's bannered, with the visual. So I'm at this thing like, do I just buy the Blu-ray and then get that down the road? Maybe get the 4K 3D down the road. Now you're hearing all this stuff about 8K, and that looks like there's going to be. Why are you shaking your head?
8K. 8K is a decade away.
Oh, they're releasing 2 movies in December of 2026.
No, it's a decade away where it's actually going to be taken up with any.
Okay, I'm just saying, brother. I know what I read.
I know they've had 8K TVs for the past couple of years, and in Japan they have 8K broadcasts.
That's not like I made the decision.
Well, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be taken up as fast as 4K has been.
Okay,
in this case.
But I'll be watching Superman in some form when the home video comes out. And a lot. I'm going to be rewatching scenes a lot.
It's so good.
Yeah.
That make me so happy. I can't wait to see it.
So we had one other news item, but we're already at 10 o'clock. Do you want to... We'll not cover that. Okay.
We'll just move on.
Okay, great. Well, we have a bunch of comics to talk about, and something a little strange. These fellas have DC, and I opted not to talk about DC.
No.
What?
I don't have a DC.
Mm-mm. Who the hell has Kryptonite Spectrum?
Neither of us.
You mean in my limited time, I had to read this fucking thing?
Nope. I changed my mind.
I thought you were.
I know you changed your mind, but I thought he grabbed it.
Well, he had it first, and I didn't realize it because I forgot who had written it. And then I decided to go with Cheetah and Cheshire. So what I think we could do is we could push off till the next.
Pissed me off, and I wasn't as crazy about this as it seems the rest of the world is.
Yeah, I think we can wait until the second issue comes out. We'll do it next month.
All right. Yeah, I wasn't as crazy about it as everyone else.
I have thoughts, but we'll get to them later.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we leading with? Do you want to lead with that, Steve? With Cheetah and Cheshire rob the Justice League?
I think I will because it was a really fun book, and let me go ahead and actually let's see if I can bring up my my little presentation here.
He's brought a PowerPoint, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, it's pretty much what these are. So
hold all questions till the end of the presentation.
Disappointed. Yes. Disappointed.
So, but in any case, if you can see it now, I don't know why it's not showing the whole thing. Let me try this again. Merp, nah, and nah. There we go. That's better. All right. So, for those of you who are watching, I am talking about Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the Justice League. It is difficult to say fast. It is a very clumsy title, but it literally does what it says on the tin. It is a very clear heist book. And, it features 2, I would say, I don't want to say like main character type of characters here. I mean, Cheshire, she's been around a lot. She's been an outsider. She's been a Titans villain for a long time. She's been a Thorn and Green Arrow side before. And obviously has a very important history with Red Arrow / Arsenal, in that they share a daughter together. Cheetah is one of Wonder Woman's main villains. She's an arch nemesis who's been around for decades. Sometimes is her best friend, sometimes is her worst enemy. Usually goes back and forth. But she is, she's cursed, so she's always going to be kind of reverting to maybe a more villainous personality every so often, just because, well, she kind of has to. Her god, whose name I cannot pronounce, is just essentially forcing her to be a monster and a cannibal and all sorts of other things. So she kind of has to struggle with that as well. And it's hard to be a hero, hard to be even an anti-hero when you've got that kind of monkey on your back. But this book, written by Greg Rucka, drawn by Nicola Scott, colors by Annette Kwok, and letters by Troy Pateri, I think just does a great job of taking these two relatively serious characters, villainous characters, and making them fun and enjoyable to read. And I think one of the best parts about this book is that you quickly, very, very quickly, from like the first couple of pages, are totally on their side. You really enjoy reading about them. It's like watching an Ocean's 11 kind of setup, where these two are like, hey, Cheetah comes to Cheshire and says, hey, I've got a great idea for us. We are going to rob the Watchtower. And, Jade, the Cheshire, she's like, what, are you crazy? There's no way we can do this. And Cheetah's like, absolutely we can, because nobody else would ever expect it. The entire world of superheroes is now part of the Justice League. People live on the Watchtower. There's always the big three up there. Trinity's always running around up there. You've got every team, every, Joe Schmo who's put on a cape. Everybody's going to be up there. They don't expect two relatively minor, well, maybe Cheetah, not so much minor, but like two villains who don't get a lot of like big chance to shine. Cheetah has, I think, in the past decade or so, she's been, part of Legion of Doom. She's been, in a lot of, the big crossovers, but she's mostly Wonder Woman's villain. A lot of people don't really think about Cheetah generally when they think about the big DC villains. So I think it actually works out pretty well here. But one thing that they definitely do they need a crew. And in books 1 and 2, that's kind of what they're doing. They're putting the crew together. And so in book 2, they actually go and they try to get a couple people who you wouldn't expect. They're sitting around in Jade's apartment. They're like, what are we going to do? We got to get a couple extra people here. We need some muscle. We need a tech guy. We need some good distractions. Like, who we got? And of course, Jade's teenage daughter in the background is like, okay, guys, like, what are you doing? Like, you're going planning a massive heist. Awesome. Cool. She's cracking wise. It's just great. It's just fun writing. And they, both Jade and Cheetah, Barbara, BA, have people in mind. And Cheetah's is a surprise that I always
thought or question.
That's weird. That I always enjoy. Google was like, hey, let's talk. That I always enjoy seeing, and that is our good old-fashioned witch boyfriend, who usually goes everywhere with his little cat, Familiar Teakle, is actually going to be one of this crew. Cheetah's like, hey, I know some guy. He's kind of crazy, kind of kooky. He'll be perfect because, we need somebody who knows magic. And what does Jade do? Jade goes off and she tracks down our good friend, the Gambler, who kind of looks like Colonel Sanders.
Hazard.
Yes, his granddaughter.
Her name is Hazard.
But the Gambler is who she, is who she looks for to find her.
The reason they go with Hazard is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great sequence, yeah.
Hazard, who basically has just been kind of like the tag-along sidekick to her granddad this whole time, seems like she's gotten a little bit of a power boost with the recent Absolute Power crossover from earlier this year, last year, in that she can now affect probability on a massive scale. And of course, they demonstrate this pretty nicely in a casino setting where she essentially just causes every single slot machine to provide their jackpot to the to the patrons. So she's perfect to have around when you need luck on your side. Get somebody who can actually completely manipulate probability in your favor. So now they've got 2 people. They need a couple more, and in issue number 3, we're probably going to get to that. We're not sure who. They've thrown out a couple ideas, and we've seen the art for future issues. So I am along for the ride on this one. I mean, these are 2 characters I would never think, you put them together in a book that would be interesting. But I think in Greg Rucka's hands and Nicola Scott's art in this, perfect. I think this has the makings of a really great miniseries that's just going to go as one of those fun, one-off, kind of under the radar, I think, for most people. But if you like heist movies, if you like these characters, if you like weird characters being thrown together in a group that doesn't really make much sense otherwise, this is a perfect book for that. So it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's not brilliant, high-minded stuff, but it's kind of cool to see this from the villain's perspective, and not in like an evil, let's kill all of humanity kind of way. In a, hey, let's just get some cool shit from the Watchtower kind of way. So I don't know. I know, Bill, you've been reading these.
Yeah. I think it's well. First, I want to say, like, Nicola Scott is a big favorite of mine, and you go months without any Nicola Scott book, and then there's like 3 in the space of like 5 weeks.
Because that's what they're doing. They're
art on the from Mad Cave on the Gotchaman Bloodline one shot, and that art is, oh my God, it's beautiful. Good work here. I've always had a problem with Cheshire. I've always had a problem with her.
I don't think you know that much about her.
Yeah. I think there's very few redeeming qualities about her. She's been a shit mother. And, even in the first scene we see with her, what she does to a lab animal is not really cool. So I've always had a lot of animosity towards that character. I mean, I get it, like, of all the Titans, Roy is the bad boy, and the original Titans, Roy is in that, headspace, and I get that relationship, but there's something about that character. Not even how I think the character design, from the word go was interesting. I think she's an interesting character. I want to see her dead. I've always wanted to see her dead. I want to see her pay for her crimes. And I don't think that's necessarily a character that works as an anti-hero. Barbara Minerva, on the other hand, absolutely does. And you feel for her. And I loved how they touched on the issues, but they didn't go in depth on the issues. She's sick. That there's somebody that has the goods on her, and that she's desperate to get rid of them. And part of this heist is part of that. So her, I am rooting for. It's a really well crafted. Rucka's been at this a long time, and he knows how to write a mini series. Yeah. It was a perfectly paced first issue, perfectly placed second issue. I will say, though, that I think the editor did not do them a favor, because the only indication that character's name is Hazard is by seeing her name on the cover. And that's the failure of the editor. If this third character that they mentioned is a new character, that's fine, but I almost feel like she's a minor character that's been seen before.
And they hint her at the end. They show her kind of more or less in action as the muscle character. Again, I'm racking my brain to try and think if maybe she's been seen.
If it was one of the multitude versions of the Outsiders or something,
right?
Or Birds of Prey, it kind of looks familiar. Some of it may be how Cassandra Cain was portrayed in the film. It's kind of in line with that. So I wasn't going to rack my brain, but that's the editor's fault. With particularly with Hazard, because it's you just edit and you throw away a line. The character's name. That's so simple to do.
Yeah.
So,
but I think the only reason I knew who she was right away was because the gambler was there. you see the gambler, you think, okay, well, she's going for the gambler, but then no, here's the quiet woman who's just sitting off in the corner, kind of, making things happen with slots.
So I haven't read this yet, so I can only kind of comment to your comments and stuff like that. But two things. One, Bill, you said, Greg Rucka knows how to write a miniseries. Greg also knows how to write a miniseries featuring really badass, dangerous women. This is kind of what he does best. If you like this type of protagonist, and he's really, really good at it. I mean, so to that point. But also, Steve, I want to go back to something you said earlier about how Cheetah is kind of a lesser known DC villain, not by any means like super low down, but as far as like the big villains, as far as the Trinity villains, she doesn't get that much credit, and I feel like people probably know a lot more of even the Flash's rogue gallery than maybe her. Which is really unfortunate.
I've always seen her as Wonder Woman's number one villain.
She is. She's Wonder Woman's number one.
Because she's got the most heart out of all those villains. And so it's really unfortunate because, I mean, you want to go back and read the George Perez Wonder Woman, some of the best Cheetah you'll ever read. It's amazing, right? Because it is so nuanced, and because there is so much heart to that character. And because she honestly has something that I don't think a lot of other villains in DC have, which is a redeeming thing. But it's funny because, like, you think about her, and, she is vicious, she is a murderer and stuff like that, but she also does have a heart. And she's dangerously close to being, if she does gain popularity, she might be one of those kind of Harley Quinn / Poison Ivy type characters. And I don't want her to be that way, right? I like that she's kind of just this off to the side where she has these moments of, what, we'll team up and for the greater good, but I'm still going to be a villain. It is an interesting place for her to be. Especially in the light of the broader DC universe with these other female protagonists, because they're letting her have an attitude. They are letting her be a bad girl without saying, but the same way they let some other male characters do. You can be a villain, you can be this terrible thing and have redeeming qualities without us needing to kind of broad brush you and make you acceptable for mass population, which I think is a good thing.
The one thing I think would make an interesting offshoot of this series is like a one shot about Roy Harper and Cheshire having joint custody. Like, it's like could you imagine that arrangement?
I mean, those are some of my favorite moments in these first two issues. Is just Cheetah and Cheshire hanging out at her kitchen table with the daughter, whose name is escaping me right now, Leanne, just like coming down and like hanging out. It's like, oh, what are you guys doing, hey ma? Like she's a teenager now. She knows what her parents are and who they are and what they do. And, she spends time with Roy, who's a big, he's a hero, but he's kind of an anti-hero. He has a lot of problems, but he's still kind of on the good side. And her mom, who, has her good moments, but she's, she always shacks up with like Leagues of Assassins or, other kind of villain groups.
I want her to get her comeuppance.
Maybe she will. Maybe this is the comeuppance. Maybe there'll be a double cross at the end in issue 6. And
that's entirely possible.
I mean, this is why I like heist movies, because of this, because they're predictable in the way that that someone's going to betray someone else. It's going to be a big thing, and then everything turns out okay at the end. That, and Greg could surprise us and make nothing turn out okay in the end. This might be a tragedy, but right now it's light, it's funny. It's bringing in some cool, fun, surprise characters that I enjoy. So we'll see what happens with it. But I'm in it for the it's a mini, so the 6-issue haul.
Okay, so let's move on from that. And Caleb, why don't you talk about your Marvel book that's not a DC book? Which is disappointing.
I do apologize. Yeah, and sorry about the confusion because I did not read. So, like Steve said earlier, I was going to talk about the new Superman book, and then he said it, and I was like, okay, you're doing it. So we'll talk about that later. But Bill, you're not alone. I was not as. That might have been a situation where my history with that writer and that artist, I expected too much, and it was not what I expected, and therefore I did not enjoy it as much as I think everybody else did. Although I do think it was good, so maybe that's a little bit. I had overhyped it in my own head, but it gave me an opportunity when Steve callously stole the book after I wanted it, and he just hates me and wanted to take everything away from me. That brought me joy,
Yeah.
and then just didn't do it
What an
because Steve
asshole.
is evil.
What an
Turns out, but it gave me an opportunity to do something that I really needed to do, which was march my little happy butt upstairs and grab my stack of Marvel books that I had not been reading lately in a couple months because it has not been that great. But it gave me an
Mhm.
opportunity to catch up on the Hulk, which is one of the Marvel titles that I really do enjoy, which is why I let it build up and read it because it's a lot of fun. And it's still Philip Kennedy Johnson writing on this. He's on his, I think, 28th or 29th issue. Bill was shocked. He was like, he's
I
been
was
doing this
shocked.
for 2 years. I was like, yeah. Hulk apparently is one of the few titles that they're letting like go the distance. I mean, they're giving it some legs, and it is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
Right now, he's got Kev Walker on art, and they're still doing this whole like long form story where there is this overarching monster in the background, who is this like a mother of all monsters, and she, they're still running from her. He's made these like, well, I say friends, but he's made a friend, named Charlie Tidwell, who is, you got a storied history, but at this point in time, she's also a skinwalker, which is, body horror, and there's a whole little story to that. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk about issue 27, right? Because this is a break, right? It's kind of that last issue to break up an arc before they go into another storyline. And it's really a one shot. It's a one shot that gives you kind of a taste of the flavor of Philip Kennedy Johnson's story. You get the body horror, you get the the really horrific stuff that he can write about. You get the sense of realism and how he's tapping into a lot of emotion there and some fear, and some very adult themes that he also is able to deliver in this weird simultaneous thing where he's going very highbrow and writing some really sophisticated stuff, but also going very lowbrow and like also giving you fun Hulk moments. What's great about this is, like I said, Hulk is Hulk right now. He's buried Banner deep in his psyche, running away from everybody, fighting this mother of monsters. It's his own entity, its own being, and he's a loner, right? Like he is broken off and pissed off at all the right / wrong people on his own, right? He's made Charlie angry. He's being chased by all these other things. And he goes off and does what Hulk does, right? He ends up in the woods alone and he's taken a nap by a tree. When all of a sudden, this little, red-headed, kind of pale kid in overalls who's out in the woods playing with a stick, right? He finds a stick and it's a sword and he's over a creek. He's just living his best life. Happens to stumble up on Hulk, taking a nap. And he was like, dude, you're huge. And he's like, not really. You're just small. And there's this moment where you see this, like, Hulk is this giant figure who can level planets and cities, but he's just kind of like perplexed by this little child in the wood. Like, what are you? Who are you doing? And, considering some of the stuff Hulk has been through, he might be a little bit more on edge. It's like, I don't trust anything or anybody. But I think he just recognizes that this kid is just, a kid and out doing kid stuff. And so the kid starts telling him about, what are you doing in my woods? And he's just like, well, why are these your woods? He's like, well, they're not really mine. I live in a bus over there with my mom and dad and little sister. My little sister's a baby. And he's like, wait, you live in a bus? He's like, yeah, my dad is a, construction worker and, we travel. And so he goes to one town and he builds a house and does a job. And then he shuts it down. We all get in the bus. We go to the next job, or this kind of traveling nomadic lifestyle. But as this kid whose name is Petey, right? I mean, how much more of a wholesome, just country kid, you just want to scruff his hair, name can you get? Petey's telling Hulk kind of, what's going on in the world. And as they're talking about things, he's like, yeah, these are my woods, but don't go over by that tree. It's called the falling down tree. And it's a tree that's been broken in half. Looks like it was split by lightning. Something fell. And he's like, well, why not? He's like, yeah, it's just a bad place, right? Don't go there. And Hulk starts to get interested, but then you hear something from the woods and it's Petey's mom calling him. And so Petey goes back and goes back to see what his family's up, leaves Hulk in the woods. But Hulk starts kind of looking around and he starts remembering his last moments with Charlie, and kind of what they got in a fight about. And he kind of broaches closer where maybe Petey and his family have his bus parked, and he starts kind of watching them. And what he sees is, from Petey's story, dad is this great guy. He's traveling for work and stuff like that. But what Hulk realizes, he walks up just in time to see Pete's dad punches Pete's mom in the face while she's holding the newborn baby. right? He's kind of a bastard of the highest order, right? He's not a good person. He doesn't travel from town to town, building houses. He's doing bad things, right? He's on the run. There's a reason why they don't have electricity. They don't have phones. They're not hooked up to the internet. They're just kind of constantly on the lam. He's doing bad work for bad people. And as Hulk is watching them, he doesn't see Petey. And they're looking around, and he hears somebody make a comment about the mom. I can't leave. I can't leave without my son. He's out under that tree. You left him there. Without Well, I mean, it's a one shot, so I'll spoil a little bit of it, right? But what we find out is that one of the things about Hulk, or at least this form of Hulk, he can kind of see beyond the veil, so to speak, see to the other side. And Petey is not of the mortal coil anymore, right? Like Petey's kind of a ghost, a spirit that's hanging around that tree. And Hulk kind of finds out what happens and smashes, and kind of gets this, goes out and gets his revenge. And there's this really, I didn't know where the story was going. And Philip Kennedy Johnson is not a man who pulls punches. There's this really interesting moment where he's met by Pete's mom, and she's just like, she's protecting the baby. She's like, I'm not a bad person. I was in this bad position. He goes, no, you could leave. You allowed this to happen. You put one child in danger. You're putting another child in danger. I heard you. You were going along with this plan. You might not be happy about it, but you at least, you capitulated to it, right? And you've done this. You're just as guilty. You may not be in as bad of a spot or as bad of a person as his dad, but you're not innocent in this either. It's a very complex place to be. For this story, because I mean, the mother's also a victim of those circumstances as well, but she perpetuated some of them too. It's not a black and white issue, as so many things aren't. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, this is a really gut punch of a story. It's a fantastic one shot. It's got a great tempo. The art by Kev Walker is outstanding. It is heartfelt. It will put you through the ringer. In 28 pages, he makes you both fall in love and hate very viscerally. And when they break free and they leave, they finally get this moment to where the spirit of Petey, dad is dealt with. Mom is going to go get some help and try to live a better life and be a good person, and she's carrying off with the baby. And Petey's spirit kind of locks eyes with the baby, and the baby reaches out to touch his hand. And Pete says, "You know what? There's no point in me hanging around this tree where my life ended. I'm going to go and just watch over my little sister." I was just like Steve with the pollen, right? So, just completely beside myself. And there's this one, I couldn't get a good picture of it. There's one scene where you just see sadness in Hulk's face. And I thought Kev Walker did a brilliant job on that. It's not going to be for everybody. If you're squeamish about that type of story and some of the subject matter, don't read it. You're not going to miss anything because it is a one shot. If you're reading the overall story and maybe you hadn't gotten there, this came out, I think 3 months ago. There's been one issue that has hit the stands since then, and I think the second one should be hitting the stands now-ish sometime this week. So it's about 2 months behind. So if I did spoil it, my apologies, but it's not spoiling the main arc of the story. It's worth picking up though. Like, this is one of those stories that where I going to go talk to a college class about making a comic. I would show this about the work that you can do in a very small package, as kind of a micro story, and what you can the minimalist way that you can pack a very big impact into those pages. It's brilliant work. Marvel's not firing on all cylinders by any means right now, but this is a gem. And if you're not reading Hulk right now, it's a fantastic body horror story, fantastic serial killer story. It's got monsters, it's demons, it's scary. It's what Hulk should be. If you liked Immortal Hulk, you'll like this. They're playing with a lot of the same themes. And I mean, who doesn't like Kev Walker as an artist? It's Nick Klein's doing the colors. It's vibrant. I say Nick Klein was Matthew Wilson did the colors on this. Wonderful color palette, vibrant, and just very somehow weirdly American. I don't know how else to put it. So go check out Hulk 27 if you're not reading the overall story. It'll do some stuff to you. So,
I mean,
Cool.
I mean, I haven't.
Uh,
I don't read Hulk currently, but like I've always liked one of the things that Marvel does a lot, and DC does this too. Not mostly in the big titles where they do have the long ongoings, is that you'll have these one-off issues that are just a chance for the writer or maybe a new artist to come on and just give a one and done story, just a really nice either emotional or maybe something that doesn't really fit in with the overall storyline or arc that's going on. I don't know. I always appreciate those because I think that there's it's a chance to take a breather for people who've been reading straight across, and there's just stuff that happens all the time. And then here's sort of like a just like an emotional like rest story.
It's like a little cherry,
that,
little cherry on top.
yeah, exactly.
okay, cool. We're going to stick with Marvel for my book. And Steve, I did give you some graphics.
Oh yes.
Like Caleb sticks with Hulk. One Marvel character I stick with is Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider, Gwen Stacy, whatever you want to call
I
her.
love it.
Yeah. So this is amazing. It's a new number 1. The book is called All New Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider. Yeah. Pick a lane. Just that's all I'm going to say is pick a lane. Between the two names, but and this is if you see the legacy numbering, it's number 76. That's amazing. They've had 76 Spider-Gwen comics already. But one thing that this book does really nicely is it sets a new status quo. You don't have to necessarily be versed in those earlier 75 issues because this is a new starting point for her. Gwen is in a different place right now. Literally, Gwen has used cosmic power to become a denizen of the Earth 616 universe. And not only her, but her father. Steve, if you can just go over to the next image that I have. Again, that's the cover. This is effectively the splash page. Man, this is good. The writer for this is Stephanie Phillips. The artist is Paolo Villanelli. And I want to give really big props to the colorist, Matt Milla, here. It seems to me that from a cultural standpoint, I think most people, if you want to call them civilians, know Spider-Gwen from the Spider-Verse movies. And he really plays with that palette. So you see Spider-Gwen here, and she isn't, like I said, she's in a different place. She's got a new costume. With her move from 616, from her universe to the 616 universe, she has these new powers that she hasn't really fully understood yet, so she's still discovering them. She was able to, as I said, bring her father. They touch on that there's a legal path of moving from one universe to the other in the Marvel universe. I would love to see, whether it's Jennifer Walters or Matt Murdock involved in a case like that. I found that fascinating. So she's establishing a new life. And one thing that I really liked about this is, I don't want to say this is darker, but it's grittier than a lot of the previous Spider-Gwen stories. So what's happening here? So she's already kind of dating this guy, sort of, and he's not exactly a supervillain, but not exactly a hero, name of Black Tarantula. And some of the first few pages, deal with their interactions and some backstory that will be revealed as we go along, I'm sure, in the issues. But again, Gwen's trying to get her life back in order in this new world. And one thing she decides is she's going to form a new band. And so she has auditions. And one of the people she knows that she's closest to in Earth 616 is Cindy Moon, Silk. Cindy decided that, again, Cindy's super smart. She was bitten by the same radioactive spider that Peter was bitten with. And some of her heightened spider abilities include that she's super smart. So she just starts watching YouTube videos and basically learns to play bass from watching them. So she comes to the audition. Gwen's initially like, "Oh, come on. What are you talking about?" And then when they play, they immediately kick in. And at the rehearsal space, there's a fella named Wes on guitar that was in one of the other rooms. He stopped by, started jamming with them, and hey, they're pretty much a band already. They just need a singer. So she goes home and she is talking with her father. Her father, who was like, if you ever saw like the old depictions of Captain Stacy, he was shaking hands with Aunt May, like looking like they were on death's door. This is like kind of like the it's a DILF. It works. And he's going to become, they're acknowledging his past as a police captain. So he's joined the New York Police Department. And the first case that he's looking into turns out to be the murder of Wes, the guitarist. And it appears that murder is from a symbiote. And I just love how they throw in almost every Spider-Man trope in this issue without throwing Peter into it. I loved how they did that. But if you just see some of the pictures here, this is Gwen, kind of tag teaming against Black Tarantula, and again, just fantastic colors from Matt Miller. Really enjoyed this. I think maybe I gave you one more image there, Steve. No, it was just those two. Okay, sorry. Well, let me. I'll just pick one out here. Yeah, like when they're like this great page when they're practicing in the rehearsal space and becoming a band.
I love band stories in comics, man. That's so much fun.
Feel the music in this. It was really good. And then we're thrown for a couple of loops at the end. Again, that one thing that her father asked is like, "Where were you?" With trying to figure out the timeline, and it establishes, hey, her dad's a cop, and she was the last one seen with Wes when he was alive. These are questions you have to ask. And like I said, it's not necessarily dark, but it is grittier, and it works for her, especially with kind of though she's had a lot of time in 616 dating Miles and all the Spider-Verse shit. But it really is it is a number one issue. Let me put it that way. It definitely is a number one issue. And Stephanie Phillips is just such a good writer for Gwen. So I like this.
Is anybody reading Stephanie Phillips' Binary book right now?
No.
Yeah, I'm not either. And
Me?
Yeah. No, I mean, I said anybody. I was talking about Steve. But I know Steve still keeps up with some of the X-Men, and it just hadn't been great. But she's writing the Binary book right now, so I was wondering how that was. I love Stephanie Phillips. I first found Stephanie with a pirate book that she did, and I forget it was like for Dark Horse or something like that. I just thought it was awesome.
Who is Binary? It's not Carol, is it?
I don't know. I'm not reading the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
That's a good.
If it is Carol, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, Stephanie Phillips is a powerhouse. So you mentioned the movie, and now we're talking about bands and stuff. So there's one character from the film that's very rock and roll oriented, and I wonder if that character is going to show up in this at all.
Since he has his own series coming out, I have a feeling not.
Yeah.
Just in terms of spreading the wealth, but who knows?
It'd be a good crossover.
Who knows? It'd be a good crossover, but I think I don't foresee it because I think they want to establish her as a 616 character.
Yeah.
And that almost immediately takes it out of it, given what punk that he inhabits. So, but maybe down the road.
Yeah. Be pretty cool.
Steve, you have your mic off.
You're muted.
To answer your question about Binary, it is Carol Danvers.
Ooh.
But merged with part of the Phoenix, and that's what gives her the Binary powers back.
Okay. Oh, that's
I don't know how. I don't know. I haven't read anything else, but that is the summary.
Okay.
We'll take it.
Yes, it
Um,
works.
okay. There you go. So I think maybe the rest of our books are independent.
I
Is that
think
Ish.
so.
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
All right. Well,
independent-ish.
let's just stick with this order. Steve, what do you have up next?
So I could go pretty quick with this one. The book that I've been reading, and I've been reading it since it came out, since it was announced as part of the Energon universe that uh, that was being presented. I want to say maybe 2 years ago now, maybe almost 3 years ago, where Image got the rights to go ahead and publish books on G.I. Joe and Transformers, and had actually started off with sort of a bait and switch with the book Void Rivals, which is very tied into the lore of all of the the other books. But the one that I think a lot of people were looking forward to was Transformers. And so I have been reading it since it came out. It is wild. It is crazy. Daniel Warren Johnson has been spearheading and, steering the ship this whole time with this storyline, which right out of the gate, you learn that this is a very different, in the same vein as Spider-Gwen, a much grittier version of the Transformers. Transformers has never really been about sort of like puppies and light rainbows. But there was a lot more, I would say, a lot more hopeful moments in previous comic iterations and in the cartoon series and, and anime. This is very dark. People die. Transformers die. Entire cities are wiped off the map of the United States when the Decepticons start their attack and try to, one, destroy any of the Autobots that are around, but two, also, basically use this world as an energy source. And anytime they find any kind of energy source, they just destroy everything around it, which are usually large cities and people. They have no qualms of stepping and squishing and just crushing babies, children, pets. Like everybody dies in this. And there's been some really tragic moments with the Autobots themselves. Several, major characters have died or been, deactivated. And that includes Optimus Prime himself. Up until just a few issues prior, he was effectively dead. His matrix had been taken over by some kind of horrible virus of some sort, some really dark virus that was sapping the life energy out of it. And I would say that anybody who has been following it and might be a little bit behind, issue number 23, which comes right before this, is absolutely a must read. Just because it goes into what Optimus Prime is experiencing in his mind, his soul, within the Matrix, and also involves Spike's dad. And it's very moving, very emotional, really cool. Issue number 24, it just, right out of the gate, page one, it is basically Optimus Prime versus Megatron. Smashy, 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 smashy. And it continues that way for the next maybe 15 pages of just pure robot on robot, sentient giant mech life form on sentient giant mech life form, just destroying each other. There's a part where Megatron throws Optimus off of some building in Chicago, and he ends up getting speared on two antenna. It is just carnage of very mechanical nature, but there's just so much death and destruction, and the Autobots have been trying to evacuate all of the humans from the city of Chicago as it's being laid to waste, and the Decepticons, including the Devastators and all of the the methods and mechs they've been using to just reap terror and horror and destruction on the United States are just doing the same here. But in a wonderful turn of events, Optimus Prime, with the help of the power that he's discovered within himself, within the Matrix, and in essentially combining his spirit with that of Spike's dad, who is also dead, just comes through and really does a number. And I can't really spoil it, but suffice to say, this ends 2 years of DWJ's storytelling very effectively, which is a good thing because this is his final issue. So next month, Kirkman takes over. So up to this point, this has been DWJ's show. Caleb, maybe. I mean, it's possible, but I've been reading Kirkman's Void Rivals, and I love it. So, it really depends on what kind of plans that he has for this. But where DWJ leaves him and leaves the Autobots and leaves the Decepticons at the end of this, I think it sets Kirkman up for success and trying to maybe potentially make it a more uplifting book, but also gives him all the tools and all the, literally all the toys are where they need to be. And I'm impressed with this. I never really was a huge fan of the original Marvel series. I read like maybe a couple issues here and there. Like I watched the cartoon when it was on in the 80s as a kid. But haven't really followed it all that much. But I've been religiously reading the comics every month when they've been coming out, and I've been extremely happy with the with how DWJ has been writing this. The art, which is by Jorge Corona for most issues, is so organic, even though he spends most of his time drawing giant robots. There's some kind of like grungy feel to it that just feels like he's been packing these, like he's molded these characters out of mud. Like it sounds kind of weird, but it's just so organic and so like natural.
No, there's a claymation field.
Yes.
Yeah. It looks like a toy it looks like a sculpt.
Yeah, it looks like a toy that's been through the ringer. All of his toys have been through the ringer here, but it looks so good. And I've been just so happy with the direction that this book has gone in. I am going to be sad that DWJ is stepping back from it, but after 2 years of like banging it out every month, he deserves a break. Mike Spicer on colors has done a great job and really bringing the grit. And Russ Wooden on letters. And, I'm not really sure if the art team is going to be continuing into the next story arc, but, hopefully they do. Or if they don't, that they bring in somebody who really kind of shares that same kind of aesthetic that Jorge has over the past 2 years. So Transformers number 24, the end of an era, so to speak, for Daniel Warren Johnson on this title. So will he be back? Maybe. But 2 years worth of it. Oh, great.
Okay.
Hey, he might come back, do a mini or something like that.
That's weird.
Yeah. Will he come back to this title? Maybe.
I'm frustrated because I went all in on Revolution when the titles were at IDW.
Yep.
And it was a really cool resetting of all the Hasbro properties. They pulled in Action Man, they pulled in ROM, Micronauts, Mask.
Yeah.
So it was really nice how they pulled everything in, and then it just like fizzled.
Yeah.
It was really frustrating because there was so much world building. They even had Ohatmu issues, and it just seemed just as quickly they went into like First Strike, and First Strike just kind of felt like pedestrian after all this cool world building. So, if I had a ton of money, I probably would have gotten everything in this iteration. Especially since, Void Rivals #1 was so goddamn exciting.
Oh yeah,
that was so exciting,
and the hype around it was cool too, just because it was unexpected.
Yeah. Yep.
I remember talking about that first issue. I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. No, that was like one of those like page turn. Whoa.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, over to Caleb. Caleb, what do you got?
So I've got kind of a cool segue. I started reading Transformers, but I just haven't been able to find my way into it. Never was a big like that person. But it's winning lots of awards, lots of accolades. So my track record. I might come back in a year and then fall in love with it. Kind of like I just did with another recent story that has been out for a long time, has gotten lots of love, has been lauded copiously, I think, on this show by people who love this book. And I was sitting there the other day and I saw it pop up on the app that I read comics legally. I pay, it's legit. So I saw it and I was like, you know what? I've not been really. I read a lot of DC on the app, so let me jump over and read something else. And I absolutely fell in love with Something Is Killing the Children. It has been a long, 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 long time since I have been just like grabbed by a book and have just binge read just chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter. And that is what happened with this. So Something Killing the Children, it is the brainchild of James Tynan IV, Walthall, I cannot pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Werther Dell'Edera. It's got Miguel Muerto on the colors. And we're deep in this book, right? We're 30 something chapters. I mean, it's just keep going. It's got a spinoff series and stuff like that. But I sat down over like the weekend. I started reading it on Friday, and by Monday, I'd read like 30 chapters of this book. Like I was just kind of shooting things to Steve, and I'm just like, oh, like this is ridiculous how much I've just been taken by this book. And the premise of it, just recap it real quick. Monsters exist in the world. Kids can see them, adults can't, but they can definitely die by the monster's hand. These monsters are born out of the children's fear to some degree. It is some reflection of their greatest trauma and fears. And of course, there is a top secret, clandestine, occult group of assassin league people who go out and they hunt these things. I don't know what else to call them. They do. Some of them have different groups. I mean, you've got these, all of them wear different masks. The white masks hunt in packs. The black masks, which is what the main character Erica Slaughter is, they're solo hunters. They're kind of lone wolves. You've got blue masks who are the tech folks. They run things. You've got folks who are basically high-end top secret butlers, which I'm sorry. Like you prove yourself that you can hunt and kill monsters and you're this badass and your job is to be the butler for the clan. That's sad. Seems like a lot of danger that's not a very high reward, but maybe you also don't get murdered by things. So that might be the payoff. I don't know. But anyway, they do all these things. Their job is to keep the secret, right? Keeping the masquerade. These are not necessarily benevolent people. If they find out that a whole lot of folks, have seen the monsters or have witnessed the deaths and know the secret, well, all of a sudden entire towns, I don't know, like drop off with Ebola or something. I mean, they happen to all die. They go in and kill them, right? Not great people. After reading all of these, the image that Steve has got up right now is the cover for Volume 6. And I should have done my due diligence and written down actually what specific issue Volume 6 starts with. But Volume 6 and 7, from what I have read, are hands down easily my favorite arcs of this story. And they blend in together. It is to a point to where Erica has, who she is, her skill set, what she'll do. She has managed to piss off literally everybody. She has ostracized herself from her house. She's ostracized herself from the Order of Dragons, or from, which is what they are, it's what they do. And she's out on her own and she's still fighting monsters. And she's been ostracized because she refuses to do the bad thing, right? She's like, no, I spent all this time saving these people. I'm not going to turn around and then snuff out a few lives to help keep this secret. There are other ways that we can do things. Noble, right? She's a good person deep in her heart who can just massacre and slaughter at will. And so because of what this happens, again, this is an international organization. Some of the people from, other countries who have these houses are not happy with what's going on. And effectively, she's put on a hit list. And because she's put on this hit list, she is targeted by another black mask whose name is Cutter. And by the way, the interesting things about these characters, these demon monster hunters, is all of them kind of found their way in, and they have monsters of their own that have been locked in, condensed, and retained in dolls, in teddy bears, in some type of childlike figure. Erica's is this little squiggly squid looking thing, who also happens to be the monster that she created that killed her parents and her best friend. But she's being hunted down by Cutter, who is this sociopathic serial killer who comes in at the most inopportune moment. Not that there's ever a good moment to be hunted down by a serial killer, but while you're in the midst of dealing with a doppelganger who's got an eyeball in their torso and is going and just selectively murdering kids in the American Southwest and hunting down res kids, not exactly great. And doppelgangers are a little bit different from some of the rest of the monsters that they face. These are like the bads, and normally they would call in like the special team, the white mask to come in and pack hunt this thing. But Erica in her infinite wisdom has latched onto this. She's going to do the work. She can't walk away. She can't let people die. And the great thing about these stories is that Tynan is not afraid to throw you right in the mix. He will introduce you to these new characters and then promptly take them away because it's a story about death. It's a story about connection and loss. That's what this is built on. It's a story about families. And so throughout all of these arcs, he introduces you to people, they deal with things, and then they die. He introduces you new people. You fall in love with them, you get very empathetic about them, and then they die. That's just kind of how this works. And so he does this once again with these characters that you just, that are trying to save their families, they're trying to save their communities. And he just, puts you through it. Deladera's art style is amazing. Very, very sketchy, very sketch heavy. He draws these monsters. Most of the time they're in shadows, but he is very good about pulling emotion out of these figures with very little lines. He's good at eyes, and that's one of the Erica's kind of hallmarks is she's got these big green, or at least a big green eye. But he's very good about pulling emotions out of the eyes, and just the way that he designs these people and shows you this world is particularly amazing. So throughout these arcs, Erica is having to deal with two things on two fronts, right? Almost three things. She's dealing with townspeople who don't trust her and who don't know who she is, who are trying to arrest her, and once again think that she's probably a killer. She's trying to save their lives. They just won't cooperate with her. She's dealing with a horrific monster who takes on her visage, which does not help matters at all when she's trying to convince people that she's not a bad person and she's trying to help. That case in point, if you're looking at the screen right now, this is an amazing spread where the monster has taken on her look. It's got the black mask with the teeth, but there's this eyeball surrounded by incisors that surrounds it in this monster's torso as it's getting ready to eat these two figures, which by the way, I thought was neat because you can tell one of them is a boy, but the other one, you really can't tell the gender of the person. And they're definitely like canoodling, they're coupling, they're sneaking in to go skinny dipping and swim in a pool together. So there are a lot of queer elements, which you might expect from a Tynan book, but, at the same time, she's being hunted down by this person who is insane by every other standard possible. And you start to see some of the machinations where the people who are kind of looking out for Erica, but standoffishly her old house and order, they kind of get to the reasons like, hey, I don't think the overall Order of Dragons really gives a shit who comes out of this. They've got two problems. One of them can live. And let's maybe tweak this a little bit. And you see these relationships develop and fall apart and develop again. You see these characters who hate each other but have a strong connection and a shared history. The White Masks, for example. What I love about this book is the very subtle world building, because you get deep into this world, but if you'll notice, he doesn't hold your hand while he's doing it. He titrates it out, and you are expected by the author to just start to understand things. He's not doing the Tolkien thing where he tells you the big points, but other than that, he's letting you figure it out in real time on your own. And that's pretty amazing. That's hard to do, especially because these books read very fast. They're not tedious to read. You can blow through an issue in a couple of minutes. I mean, these are page turners. They're well paced. Don't take a lot of time to read. But at the same time, you're being immersed and you have to pick up on a lot of stuff, context clues and otherwise, that you can do, and if you notice that you're doing it almost just naturally, Tynan really has a grasp, and so does Deladera. They have a great visual language together that they are depicting in this story. And that to me, from the craft element, is the best part of this story, because is truly, I don't know, it is immersive, deep world building done at a very shallow level, if that makes any kind of sense. And I think if you read this, you'll understand what I'm saying. But I am caught up as far as what's on my app. I cannot wait to get the next issue. I had Steve, I sent him some images, and he's been showing them us this, but there's one up right now where Erica, who is just rock, right? She is not an emotional person. You know, she's seen death. She lives with grief. It's just kind of everything. She's had friends walk away. She's lost her family, but she's having this moment of solitude again in the American Southwest, and a horse just kind of walks in the back gate, and she just walks up to this horse, this giant, gentle creature. You know, it lets her grab its head, and she just puts her face on its face, and she just weeps. And I like that. To me, was a very poignant, emotion-packed moment, where there is still some humanity there with this person whose life is to kill. Go check out this series if you haven't yet. I need to start reading the spinoff series next, because I heard it's equally amazing. You get more of the world, more of these characters, more of the order that they have. Steve, I know you've read it. Bill, I don't know if you have read this or not, but I actually do think you'd enjoy it. But it's worth checking out. And again, just completely captivated me, got me reading, like, had 40 issues in 4 days easily. And that's not easy to do for me anymore. I took time to do it. I've stayed up late and read, which I don't do. So
I have to say, like, my exposure to Tinian's horror stuff has been minimal. Things like the lake house,
yeah,
lake,
the nice
whatever.
house on the lake.
The nice house on the lake.
Completely
The
different.
lake house. Yeah.
Very
And I
different.
it just doesn't resonate with me. And the nice thing about this being a hit series is this is going to be around for decades, collected form. So at some point, maybe I will. It's just not really.
Not nearly as cerebral as a nice house on the lake. Honestly, it's probably closer to the woods as far as, and it's not exactly like the woods, but it's closer to the woods.
Yeah.
As far as what he's done.
Yeah. And I've only read the first volume, so like you are way ahead of me at this point, but it is absolutely, I agree. Like, I mean, it throws you in very, oh yeah. I mean, it literally throws you to the wolves, literally and figuratively at the beginning of the series. So you really do need to stay on your toes and pay attention, because he is not going to tell you everything that's going on. You're going to have to glean that from, a couple pages of dialogue here, or just the visual that is presented. But yeah,
for the ride. He doesn't give it to you up front, but he gives it to you. Go for the ride. It's a detective kind of thing, right? It's almost a detective story. And there's a deeper metaphor in creating monsters, so it's very, very good. Very, very good.
Agreed.
Okay. I've got one more book I'm kind of fading, so I'm going to go through this a little more accelerated than I was planning to. But sometimes when I say that doesn't really happen. So let's. It seems to me that a lot of licenses that would have gone in previous points to IDW or to Dynamite, it seems that Mad Cave is staking their territory there a little bit, and they've done some very good licensed books. And the most recent one to hit the shops has been their version of Speed Racer. So, Steve, I know you have some graphics. This is not the A cover. This is the retro cover. This is the B cover by Sean Galloway. And I have to say, this is a bit of a bait and switch, because one of the things that I really admired about this series is, one, doesn't really stick to the Speed Racer original anime and the original manga continuity. It plays with that a little bit. And also the visual style is far more, I hesitate saying Americanized, but it does have a much more comic booky feel than an anime manga feel. And that was something I wasn't expecting, especially since a lot of the covers that they, which were some of the first images released for this series, are certainly in that vein. So where are we with this version of Speed Racer? So Speed has not become the champion, race driver that we know him as. He's still a street driver, and that's where he's kind of making his bones there. We have a very different family situation. Mom's racer has left Pop Racer. To me, that's, they were like a brick, they were like a foundation, that, were so key to how Speed and Spritel behaved. They provided a very solid family for him. So that's disrupted. But there are elements that are the same. Speed has a brother, Rex. Rex Racer apparently died in an accident. But lo and behold, there is a Racer X at the end of the first issue. So there's things that continue. So as the story progresses, we found out more about his life. Spritel is kind of like a TikToker, and he's filming these races, and they're getting millions of hits. But Speed, he really wants this to be his life. He's not interested in continuing his education and going to college. He just wants to race. The problem is the Mach 5 is not his car. It's his dad's that he was working on for various racing teams, to sell it to the highest bidder because he's the ace mechanic in this world. And in this particular world, the name of the city, what is the name of the city that they established here? Oh, God dang it, Palm City, which could be one of two coasts, basically. So with a thing that you often saw with Pop's Racer is he was a heavyweight. He could beat the hell out of anybody. But in this version, there are nefarious characters in the racing industry that come out over to the racer residence and kind of beat the shit out of Pops. And in the midst of this, he gets a few good hits in, but he ends up having a heart attack, and that puts him in the hospital. They find out because of their shit health insurance that, and here you see Pop's bedridden, that he's going to need a heart transplant, and that's going to run in the millions. So Speed feels like he doesn't have a choice but to enter some of these big, like, chaotic races that are out there. And one of the prizes is $1 million for one particular race. As he's preparing for this, he comes across a young woman, Trixie. And Trixie, instead of just being the girlfriend, as she's usually depicted, she turns out to be the head of one of the racing teams. And she decides, hey, let's take a chance on Speed, even though they met before, and they, there's clearly a romance undercurrent there. And as you can see in this image, some of the other racing cars have these weapons, and the Mach 5 is no different. So that's a really cool element. There were some really great pages with depicting the actual races. And they've also established some very big bads in the Cat team. So this really was a bit of a surprise, because I think I was expecting something much more in the anime style, and that it was something so different. Because, again, like a lot of the previous Speed Racer comic books have been in there. And then when they've gone for something, a bit more photorealistic, it's been artists like Tommy Yoon, who, kind of has a foot in anime and a foot in conventional comic drawing. The writer is David Pepose. The artist is David Tinto. Tons of variant covers, which are all pretty cool. I don't think this has been solicited as a mini. I think they're just pursuing it as if it's going to become an ongoing. But this was really enjoyable. Speed Racer 1 and 2 are out. And I believe next week Racer X #1 and then Speed Racer #3 is out the week after that. So there's a lot of Speed Racer comics coming up.
That's pretty cool. And that was from the images that you had shared too. I was really surprised that they really went the opposite direction of sort of a manga visual style. Like it's very Western. Which is an interesting way of seeing it, because like even if if you're a fan of the live action film by the Wachowskis, which I am,
which I love.
I still have not seen that. I need to.
Oh, it's so much fun.
It's kind of an assault on the senses. I mean, but I mean that in the best possible sense. And I think it also shows that the Wachowskis can make like a very mainstream movie.
Yeah.
Like an exceptionally mainstream movie. I wish it was a hit. It was so much better. It did not deserve the flop status that it had.
But it's definitely got the cult legs now, because I think it does have such a devoted following to it that it'll be around. It'll be in retrospectives for a long time. Mm-hmm. But even that, starring all Western actors, still made sure the visual style, the way that the costumes were done, the the backgrounds, the cars, the technology, everything was just pulled straight from the pages of the manga or right from the original cartoon. And so it still maintained that same kind of feel to it. But this, yes, you've got the race cars with like their cool weapons and things, but this is definitely more of a Western style. And I'm curious if they're if they're going to do some kind of like maybe incorporate some elements here and there. Like you said, from one of the variant covers, like it's kind of like, oh well, here's sort of like a nod to the original style, a little bit here and there. But
it reminded me a little bit of what we've seen in some of the Rocketeer comics over the past couple of years. Kind of a little bit of the same. Not as much, but some of it was very similar. It didn't have the dated feel because they try to go for that, kind of late 30s, vintage 40s vibe. But there were some of the similar lines, and I thought it was interesting. Because I was expecting a little bit more of like the Comico vibe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kamiko's was, they did the Robotech comics.
Yeah.
I don't think they had any other manga or anime properties.
They didn't do Captain Harlock, did they?
No, that was Eternity.
Yeah, Eternity did that. I can't remember who did Area 88. Was that?
That was Eclipse, and the Area 88 was the actual manga.
Right.
Yeah. So, but Robotech was all new stories based on the Robotech narrative, which was very much basically replicating that style, which set the tone for a lot of stuff. What is with Steve going off camera?
He went away.
You shy, baby?
Well, I do have to blow my nose. I'm not going to be blowing that on camera.
That's
so. Come on, hey, come on! That was one of my finest moments.
That's for the special.
That was one of my finest visuals.
That's for the Patreon. Just an hour of me blowing my nose.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to start wrapping up this episode of the Comic Book Bears. And when we do wrap an episode up, we have two particular segments that we get to. The first, on our way to the end, is something we call Geek Gets, where we show off something that we got or some things that we got over the last 14 days since three of us have last been together on video. And Steve, I'm going to ask you first. Do you have any Geek Gets? No,
not this week.
He just doesn't. He's sad.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling Caleb and I are going to make up for that.
Oh, yeah.
So, Caleb, what do you got?
I do. So, I have some book-related Geek Gets. I am getting on an aeroplane on Monday and flying out of the country for a few days. I'll be in Greece. And so, long flights. Never been on a flight this long before. So, I'm taking my handy-dandy trusty iPad to read some stuff. But took my nieces to Les Barnes & Noble and happened to peruse and found some stuff that I wanted to buy and read. So I picked up a new novel. It's called A Sheepdog Named Oscar This was written by Darrell Waldron. It's love and companionship in rural Ireland. She meets a stray sheepdog and is going to train it and does lots of walks. It's a flaneur story, right? If you're familiar with that literary reference, it's a lot of walking and telling you about what's around and learning about life. So really looking forward to reading that. And apparently I was on a dog kick. Not that my life is not filled with dogs already, because I found a graphic memoir. You can't call it a graphic novel. It's half prose, half pictures, but it's a book called You Can Never Die, a graphic novel by Harry Bliss. Haven't read it yet. Expecting my heart to get broken at 30,000 feet. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but Harry Bliss loved his sweet dog Penny, a joyful part of his life for 17 years. Every day that he cared for his beloved pet, he joked with her, talked to her, did all these things. And Penny's presence is unmistakable and hilariously incorporated into this iconic cartoon. In one, he gazes, what I could go on and on. I'm looking forward to reading this, maybe crying a little bit next to a stranger on a plane. So we'll see how that goes. But those are my geek gets for the week. Lots of pet related reading.
All right, cool. Some of my geek gets are music related. Last week I saw 4 concerts, 3 of them in a 27-hour period. So you can just check my Instagram or Facebook feeds and get the background on that. But, one thing that I have consistently been doing is been buying vinyl albums as my tour souvenir. So last Monday, I did get the recent album by Sparks, Mad, on vinyl. So that's one thing I got. And then I want to give a big shout out to a local store, which I've mentioned in the past, Randy Now's Man Cave in Hightstown, New Jersey. With Randy's, sometimes they have in-store shows, and they had one this past Saturday of the British band APB, who were kind of like contemporaries of the Gang of Four, working the like fractured pre-Rage Against the Machine guitar and funk riffs and all cool stuff like that. And they do occasional reunions, mostly in New Jersey, because one of the members lives in New Jersey. The others are still in Scotland. So if you want to see them, you have to kind of go to New Jersey every few years. And we had a woman in the audience who flew from Texas to see the 2 shows that they were playing in state.
That's awesome.
But Randy pulled something aside for me, and I've mentioned in the past that I'm, slowly collecting Apple records, the Beatles label from the late 60s and early 70s. And he pulled aside a copy of Badfinger's last album, Ass, for me. It's an ass. And this was their final album on Apple. They were signed to Warner Brothers, and the first Warner Brothers album came out with days of each other. It was a weird situation. This, of the 4 albums they put out on Apple, is by far the hardest to find, and it was incredibly fair price. So, Randy, thank you for that. And then lastly, I am the world's slowest Superman the film toy collector, it seems. But I've kept going, and there was a great deal on the 12-inch figures as a set, Superman and the Justice Gang. So this has all the 12-inch figures that they produced, save for one. Again, it says Superman and the Justice Gang. So separately, I had to go and get Ultraman. So now I have the whole line, and if you did buy this, apparently this is a big deal to some people. It's the only way that you can get Hawkgirl's mace in this version. That's important to some people. Yeah. So some more Superman toys for me. That's everything falls down.
Hawkgirl can't fly in real life, Bill.
I know,
but in our imagination, she can.
Yes, in our hearts, she can.
And it also surprised me because this size, I think, started with Hasbro with the Titan series for Marvel, and there's not a lot of what do you call it, articulation.
Yeah,
right.
And I imagine most of these go to kids, but I haven't gotten. I've gotten 2. I got 2 Justice League figures. I got Aquaman and Mera way back when, but nice. I like it. And Steve's back after another sneeze.
Yes.
So
Thankfully, I have not
at least
sprayed my
give us
camera.
at least one on camera. Come on,
No.
brother.
No.
Come on. You saw
no.
how funny that was when I was doing my thing. I want to see it.
Whew.
I'm the boss, damn it.
And see, now I'm not going to have to. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're wrapping up this episode, and our last stop on the way to the end is something we call the Woofs of the Week. In the bear community, if you find a fellow attractive, you woof at him. And that's something we do here. We woof at something which may be comic book or comic book related, but it also may be a film or a television program, possibly a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start as I always do with Steve. Steve, what is your wolf of the week?
Well, this is not comic book related, but in some circles and in some social groups, this might as well be their massive crossover, their massive, their event book of the year. And that is, of course, the Great British Bake Off, aka the Great British Baking Show. It's just a fun time every year to get a whole bunch of, very pleasant, very polite people together in a tent to bake some absolutely gorgeous things or terrible nightmares that turn out so poorly. And you feel just so bad for everybody when it doesn't work out. But it's a wonderful crop of contestants this year. You still have Noel and Allison as the hosts. And I believe this might actually be Prue's last year as a judge. So, it'd be a good time to enjoy her last go. It is available on on Channel 4 in the UK on Tuesday nights. And of course, it's airing in the US and other markets on Netflix on Fridays. So they will show you the new episode on Friday. So it is weekly. It's one of those things that Netflix actually does with very few shows. And this is one of them. So Great British Baking Show, aka Great British Bake Off. Enjoy.
Cool. All right, over to Caleb. Caleb, what is your wolf of the week?
Co-sign with that. But my wolf of the week actually goes out to some really good friends of ours. The fine folks at 11 O'Clock Comics are right now recording, and I'm going to jump over on their Discord after this for a few minutes, but they are recording their 1000th episode of 11 O'Clock Comics. They have not missed a week. They have put out at least one podcast every week since they started this thing, sometimes 2 or 3 a week. And they're up to 1,000. It's a huge landmark. It is hard for me to describe how important that this group of people is to my life. Vince, David, Jason. I would not know Bill if it were not for that podcast.
This would not be happening.
Literally would not. Some of my best friends, Wendy, Brian, all of the folks that I talk to on a daily basis, I know them because I started listening to a podcast and then joined a Facebook group and then got introduced by people to other people and was immersed by this amazing community and this amazing culture. And it went from just being a hobby, something that I dearly love and enjoyed, to just things I like talking about with like-minded people, to, again, meeting my best friends, to having people teach me how to talk about art, teach me how to read comics and understand what's happening, to break down the mechanics of them, of this literature, right? In a way that no school taught me how to do. I mean, yes, I have a education in that, but that's different. This has been greatly impactful on my life. I put a picture of those guys and these guys on my hat, or my little whatever it's called, when I graduated. I mean, it's deeply impactful for my life, and I could not imagine where my life would be or what my life would be like if not for the influence of those 3 guys who made that podcast. So congratulations, and genuinely thank you for what you've done for me, and what you've given me, just even if it's just through immersion. I really appreciate it. So happy 1000th, guys. Love you.
Yeah. I wish them a happy 1000 right before we started. I'm too beat to join the Discord right now.
It won't be on long. I got to get up at 5 a.m. So.
And if I do have communication with them these days, it's through the Slack.
Yeah.
But it's time to go to sleep. So I'm going to send my Wolf of the Week out to friends of mine. Really, really wish Caleb could see them at some point in time. I really do. Steve, if you can pull that graphic up. My friends in AC/DC, yes, this is a queer AC/DC cover band.
Where is it?
Get the up so we get the
There
dates.
it is. And there we
go.
Aha.
Ta-da!
There we go. All over your town. They're actually playing tonight in Wisconsin. They'll be in Chicago on Saturday night and in Dayton, Ohio on Sunday. Our good friend Mike Lovins is going to be going to the Dayton show. And then next week they have a run of shows, Boston on Thursday, Ben Salem on Friday, which I will be going to. Now that the Sex Pistols canceled, I was very worried I was not going to be able to see them this tour. And then they're playing at the Williams Center in Rutherford, which is a fantastic venue for them. It's a very cool concert venue. There's a record store inside the concert venue. There's a bookstore inside the concert venue. There's an ice cream parlor inside the concert venue. What more could you want? The lead singer is Chris Freeman, who is probably best known as the bassist and founder for Pansy Division.
Yeah.
My good friend Glenn is playing bass. Muscle Bear Steve McKnight is on guitar. He's a veteran of like legit hair metal bands like Cry Wolf. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. So they don't tour often. Mostly because of day jobs, some of which are really impressive. So they are going to be doing a spate of dates over the next 2 days in the Midwest and in the East Coast. They're based in California, so the California dates aren't as rare, but they do have some shows in Ocean Beach and Phoenix, Arizona, and Yucca Valley toward the end of October. But do go out and see them. Just filthy reinterpreted lyrics of AC/DC songs, and they're just so good. They're just so good as a band, and I can't wait for next Friday. So, AC/DC is my Wolf of the Week.
And nobody plays Charlotte or Winston-Salem. So
I live in Arkansas. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I think Brad
you never know,
Paisley's
like-
playing every week here. That's about it.
Yeah, you can see. I'm sure you get like Jason Aldean.
We do.
Yes.
I say that we get some legitimately great acts here, and
Yeah.
honestly, as somebody, I make that joke. That is not fair for me to say because I do not get out and see the good acts that we get when I get
Right.
a chance to half the time because
Yeah.
I just don't. So I need to go see more.
I see too much.
You have seen too much. You've seen too much.
Yeah.
I
So,
vicariously go to all these concerts through you. So
Yeah.
between you and
This
Tito,
month in particular in the New York area, there is a good show every night if you wanted to go. There is a good show every night. There used to be a big joke about Rocktober. That used to be a big like radio station staple. September is the new Rocktober right now. The shows that I'm passing up on are phenomenal.
Rock Timber.
You only have so many so many dollars in the wallet and so many hours that you can dedicate to this stuff. But at least where I am, it's an incredibly good concert month.
That's awesome.
And I got 2 more. This month. So, all right.
Excellent.
All right. All right. Okay.
All right.
All right. Okay, this was the Comic Book Bears podcast. Not episode 1000, but we got a few.
We've done a couple.
Yeah. So, if you want to follow us, you can do so by following us on social media where we are Comic Book Bears. Apart from Facebook, where we are Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, please do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, you can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of the major podcatching platforms. If you are watching us through Facebook Live, I don't know how to characterize this anymore, Steve. Sort of Facebook Live and through YouTube Live. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you are joining us later on video through our YouTube account, thank you. Please like and subscribe. So until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
I've been Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
The whole time.
your whole life.
Full time. Not my whole life. I was Captain Alexander.
Never did anyone else. Never.
Had no hyphen.
Brother, I gotta say, before we started, just want to let people know we were tired, and I got a jolt of energy, and that jolt's gone. I gotta get that. Again, we are the Comic Book Podcast. If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Take care, everyone.
Woof.